What's up, sir?
You guys didn't know that?
No.
Yeah, an Israelite. Hey, I told you these don't get any better, people. Now, come on. But being a Masonic cemetery means there are no Catholics or Indians buried here in the early days. Did you guys know that the Pope and the Masons got in a big argument back in the 1800s? Went their own directions in life, so that's why the Catholics have their own cemeteries. Ours is the other side of town, St. Ambrose. The Indians have their land rituals they go through. You ain't got to worry about them. Now, since I offended one religion already, are there any Catholics on the bus? Do you guys know why those Catholics were so opposed at being cremated? They were afraid they're going to be put in a mason jar. Hey, have you guys been out to see Mount Rushmore yet?
Yes.
By chance, did you go through the Badlands?
Yes.
There you have it, the exciting state of South Dakota. We got stone faces, dry dirt. Today it's dead bodies. How much more excitement can you handle? All right, well, it looks like the brakes of the bus just gave out. All right, make the most of it. Throw your hands up in the air. Whee! Rides like this at Disneyland run $10 a pop. We're getting a great deal today. We'll squeeze around the corner here, scare these people out of their wits. Now, if you peek through the trees, on your right, you will see the American flag. Old Glory, there she stands. That flag you see is the first flag to fly 24 hours a day outside of the White House. Granted permission to do so back in the year 1917. Took an act of Congress to get her done. Remember when Congress actually got things done? Well, at night when you fly the flag, you got to shine a light on it. We did it back then, and we're still doing it today. We're arriving to the overlook of Brown Rock. Now, at this point, we're 300 feet above the town of Deadwood. Straight up or straight down, depending on your direction of travel at the time. And if you'd like to disembark for a quick photo, come forward and be my guest. I used to say jump off and get a picture, but I started losing people that way. And you got some baggage you want to get rid of, this is the place to do it. And if you're exiting in as a couple, just a word of warning, I hear it all the time. Okay, honey, back up just a little bit more. Always looks like an accident.
That's why I won't get off.
All right. Now, you just hiked half a mile up a hillside to stare at the statue of the dead guy, so I got a question for you. Why are Wild Bill and Calamity Jane so famous? I'll give you a clue. The same things that make people famous today made them famous back then.
They died.
Well, it's getting your name in the paper, your picture in a publication, that sort of thing. Look what it did for Kevin Costner. Got himself a tour bus company. Does it get any better than that? I'm challenging you guys. I want you to go back to your hometown and I want you to do something notable. Why? Because they're going to put your name in the paper and people are going to start whispering your name under their breath. Pointing fingers your direction when you walk down the street, saying, look, there goes those people from Houston. What'd they do this time? They went to Mount Rushmore and painted a mole on George Washington's nose. Well, they come up with stuff, so be ready, okay? Now, here's what could help all of us. If we could carry with ourselves a cleverly coined moniker like Wild Bill had with his name. Now, in Wild Bill's case, he ends up being fast with the guns, and he ends up taking a couple people out along the way. And I'm not talking about a gal on a nice date here. Know what I mean, sir? Are you two actually out on a date right now? Honey, I'll take you to the cemetery and show you where it all ends. Now, Wild Bill ended up killing people. The newspapers like that because they're stories. And you know when you embellish a story, there's a name for that. Have you folks ever heard that term, fake news? No, it's called yellow journalism. You can sell more papers that way. And if you sell more papers, you make more. There, you got it. The bottom line was it's always been the good old dollar bill. He's 28 years old. He killed a guy by the name of Dave Tutt in Springfield, Missouri. And Harper's New Monthly magazine out of New York jumped on that. Started spinning out a tale about a guy with guns. They dubbed him Wild Bill. People read the story, wanted to know more. And then every month thereafter, Wild Bill was the outrider, the bullwhacker, the stagecoach driver. Wild Bill the spy, the scout, the sharpshooter. And when he died, paparazzi can't write about him anymore. Who comes out of the woodwork to replace him? Calamity Jane claimed to be Wild Bill's partner. National Enquirer Sun magazine should be ringing a bell for you right about now. All right, we'll ease away from the overlook here, getting past the fencing and all. If you look out over the edge of the cliff on your left here, down there at the very bottom, you might be able to see our old tour bus. That ran great for me yesterday when I was up here practicing for this run today. Nice little view from up here. See those trees on the mountain over yonder, which you're looking at are predominantly ponderosa pine. They have an average lifespan of 400 years. I told you Custer had come through on an expedition in 1874 through the southern hills. Well, he wrote in his journal, You can drive a stagecoach through these black hills of Dakota Territory because the trees are spaced so far apart. Looking out there today, couldn't do it now, could you? See, all these trees have grown in since then. That's the product of forest management over the last 140 years or so. If you're out there on the plains and you're approaching the hills from a distance, the pigment in those pine needles casts off a dark gray hue. The Indians had a name for the landscape. They called it Paha Sapa. That's a Lakota Sioux word. Translated means hills black. See where we get the English derivation of the name? Ever wonder where they came up with the name for like the Blue Ridge Mountains or the Smoky Mountains? Well, there was a time in the history of man when something called common sense prevailed. You could look at something and just say what you saw. Yeah, you didn't have to be like, politically correct about what you said or how you said it. Just think, if they discovered the hills here today, you'd be visiting the beautiful non-white hills of South Dakota right now. Yeah, put that crap on for science. All right. The first settlers out here come in from the lowest echelons of society, ruffians even back in their own day, renegades, rebels, and rabble-rousers, guys on their last leg in life, nothing to lose and everything to gain. They came to Deadwood hoping to get rich off that gold. All right, Wild Bill would eventually join those masses. We've come to that clearing here. Look at your right window. See that building high atop the hill over yonder? Yeah, that's my house. State dead. Now that's the yank shaft of the Homestake gold mine up in Lead. Now what you see right there is what kept the economies of this area going for all those years. From 1877 to 2001, that was the largest operating gold mine in the entire Western Hemisphere. That's half the globe, people. That mine right there goes 1.5 miles down into the earth. 8,338 feet down to the very bottom. Half a mile below sea level, a mile above where you're looking at it there. Started by two brothers, Fred and Moses Manuel, back in 1876. They sold it a year later, 1877, to a soon-to-be U.S. Senator from the state of California. His name was George Hearst. William Randolph Hearst's father. Oh. You guys remember Patty Hearst being kidnapped back in the 70s, part of the family? Yeah. Have you guys ever seen that Hearst Castle out there in California? Yes. Golden Nut Castle came from right around here. Ever seen the movie Citizen Kane? Orson Welles depicts William Randolph Hearst, George's son, in that flick. William ran the San Francisco Examiner. Most women do that to me anyways. I'm used to it. All right. During their time of ownership, the Hearst family pulled over $10 billion with a P dollars worth of gold out of these hills. And you know what? It's interesting about the mine. It never ran out of gold. It was the price of gold that did them in. The front man that Hearst sent out here to see if the gold prospects were viable or not was a guy by the name of Ludwig von Kellogg, the guy who started the Kellogg's Cornflakes Corporation. All right, when we were up there at the gravesite next to Potato Creek Johnny, did you see that headstone that said Mills on it? Yes. Yeah, that guy was a general. He made cereal, too. If you need a picture of the cemetery sign, it's at your right window behind us here before we're done. All right, here, let me help with some photos back here, man.
Yeah, thanks.
Oh, you're welcome. But you don't have to thank me. It's mine. All right. So it's the newspapers that make Wild Bill and Calamity Jane famous. When you read these stories Harper's put out, Wild Bill kills the guy by the name of Bill Mulvey when he's 32 years old. A month later, Samuel saw him. The body count would not quit. Start adding it up. He kills between 15 and 100 people. Depending on whose count you go by. If you want to believe, legend has it, he had 26 notches on one gun alone. Putting all that into perspective, Wild Bill was faster than Clint Eastwood. Is that fast or is that just fast? Was he really this fast, or are these stories? Have you ever read the tales about the man, the prowess he held by that gun of his? You ever read like one of them dime store novels when you were growing up? When you were a kid, did you ever have a comic book with maybe a Western theme? Have you guys ever seen a guy on a horse? Now you're on the same page. Read the stories. 2 slugs into the man's stomach before his guns even cleared leather, and he was a dead man. That's an exciting tale. I'll read more. I don't care if it's true or not, I believe it. But it was that faith that people had in Wild Bill that gave him the reputation he'd parlay into a career in law enforcement. All right, you guys aren't getting Wild Bill mixed up with a guy by the name of Buffalo Bill, are you? Do you guys know who Buffalo Bill Cody is? Ran that Wild West show? Frontiersman, statesman, and all. Do you guys know where Buffalo Bill's buried? In a grave. Yeah, just take the easy answer. But do you know where that grave is? It's in the ground. Remember the easy answers? Buffalo Bill's buried on Lookout Mountain in Golden, Colorado. And he's also in North Platte, Nebraska. And then last month they found him over there in Cody, Wyoming. You know, in his later years, this guy was just falling apart. For a dead guy, he sure gets around, don't he? I don't know where he's at anymore because they keep changing that story on me. But guess what? I got the man's picture on the bus right there above your heads. That's Buffalo Bill, and this is Wild Bill. Wild Bill traveled with the Buffalo Bill Cody show for about 6 months when it's called Scouts of the Plains. And then Wild Bill got fired because he was drinking all the time and cussing at the kids, and they deserved it. But it's supposed to be a family show. On the circuit, he meets this gal, Clammy Jane. 5'6" tall, 140 pounds. Wandered around the streets of Deadwood back in her day telling people, I can out shoot, knocking out ride. Well, I can out spit out, drink out, cuss out, think and outdo any man in this here town alive. Woohoo! Boy, if that ain't a gal from Texas, I don't know what is. But that's the gal I'll take home to meet my mama. And she lived her life and proved it all. Her and Wild Bill knew each other from the show, but they came together on a wagon train out of Cheyenne, Wyoming, 1876. They share a talent with a gun, point and pull the trigger. Hip G, man. Wild Bill turns his talents into a career in law enforcement. Clammy Jane turns her talents into...
A talent.
Whiskey! No, she was the original party girl of Deadwood before this gal showed up here today. Doing tricks for people on our city streets with her bowling. She's a crack shot with her pistol to perform her heart, but all the money she made down the hatchet flowed. And how do we know that? Read her death certificate. She died August 1st, 1903. 3 miles south of us here, a town called Terry, not there anymore. We dug it up looking for gold. Her death certificate listed the cause of death. Inflammation of the bowels and pneumonia. Uh-oh, starting to sound like COVID to me. I keep reading to the bottom where her doctor wrote this comment. This woman drank approximately 2 quarts of whiskey per day.
Wow.
Now you be the judge. Now, since she drank her profits away, she had to have another job lined up to make the ends meet. What would she choose as her second profession? Oldest one in the book, prostitution. Take another look at that picture. That poor gal's gonna starve trying something like that. But she plied the trade. A rumor was out that Wild Bill and Clammy Jane were an item, but you know, history doesn't tell me there was, doesn't say there wasn't. So if you got a good story you want to share with me, let me know and I'll start spreading the word. Wild Bill took the job as the deputy marshal of Hay City, Kansas when he was 32 years old. At the age of 34, becomes the sheriff of Abilene. Abilene, Kansas, a cow town that's gone out of control. Do you guys watch Westerns? You know what cow towns are all about. You get these cowboys on these cattle drives on the trail, weeks on end. They'll not see whiskey, women, time off, or pay. They don't get that till they get to the end of the line. That's Abilene. Then they get it all at one time. The party's on. The town goes wild. Lawlessness reigns. The people who lived in Abilene were physically afraid when the cowboys showed up. Residents who would not come out of their houses, walk the streets, go to the stores. You know, just like Portland, Oregon is today. But there's one guy to get that town back on track. Wild Bill, he took the job. On the job, makes one small mistake. Wild Bill accidentally kills his own deputy. Got involved in a gunfight on the streets of Abilene. Out come the guns, there's a volley of fire. During the gunfight, he kills his opponent. Here's footsteps behind him. Out of instinct, turns, fires, shoots, gets the guy right through the heart. Problem was, it was Mike Williams, his own deputy. Now, Dick Cheney could have learned something from that lesson. Heartbroken over the loss, he left Abilene, ended up in Cheyenne, Wyoming. And here he meets the true love of his life. Her name is Agnes, Agnes Lake Thatcher. Married 3 short months when word hit Cheyenne. Gold has been discovered! 250 miles north of them here in Deadwood, Gulf, torn between the love of his life, Agnes, and gold fever. You know who wins out. There's a picture of Wild Bill and Clammy Jane here on your left. Oop, now it's an RV. There, see that? Clammy Jane is the one on the left. Well, just so you know. They'll be married for 3 short months when word hit Cheyenne. Gold's been discovered. Wild Bill arrives first week of June, 1876. By day, Wild Bill prospects for gold. Afternoons, evenings in the saloons. He'll be gambling, trying to win himself some more. And then the fateful day came. On August 2nd, 1876, in that saloon on Main Street, we passed on the way up 2 hours into the game of cards at 4 in the afternoon. Wild Bill was dealt a winning hand. Turns out to be the losing hand for his life. Distracted by potential profits on the table, he never sees that villain, crooked-nosed Jack the Tall, get up behind him. McCall, a gun in hand, raced it to the back of Wild Bill's head, pulled the trigger. The Prince of Pistoliers, Wild Bill Hickok, killed at the young age of 39. The last thought that would cross Wild Bill's mind before he'd go on to meet his maker were the cards he was holding in his hands at the time of his death.
Full house.
He carried a pair of black aces, black 8s, and the red 9 of diamonds. And that's what we call
Dead man.
the dead man's hand today. The game they're playing, by the way, is called 7 Up. All right, now we're doing a little shootout here in the streets of Deadwood. So, Larry needs to tell you guys something. He doesn't know we're down here, and I can't get in on that next street over there. So, let's see here. I might try this trick here. I can go 2 streets down and try to sneak in through there. All right. Okay, well, they caught this McCall guy. They put McCall on trial. Initially, they acquit him of the crime. He goes into a vigilante court here on Indian land, and he told them, Wild Bill killed my brother years ago in Kansas. This is revenge. Revenge, I tell you, for the murder of my kin. And they understood vigilante justice out here in the West. It was an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. You know, kind of like Bruce Willis in those Die Hard films. But nobody liked this McCall guy anyhow. They told him to get his belongings and get out of town, so he left. But McCall's not the brightest bulb in the bunch, and he proved it less than a month later. Down at Fort Laramie, Wyoming, he's down there bragging about the murder of a U.S. Marshal to none other than another U.S. Marshal. But this time being on federal land, admitting a federal crime to a federal officer, they rearrested him. They shipped him out to the Dakota Territory Federal Courthouse, 350 miles east of us here in Yankton, South Dakota. And there they tried Jack McCall for the murder of U.S. Marshal James Butler Hickok, finding him guilty and sentencing him to death. They ended up hanging him March 1st, 1877, on his 24th birthday. They hung McCall at the Dakota Territory Federal Courthouse, 350 miles east of us here in Yankton, South Dakota, and there they buried Jack McCall in a Catholic cemetery in an unmarked grave with a noose around his neck to this very day. And by the way, I think that's why they called it Yankton, because they yanked him and yanked him. We don't know why McCall killed Wild Bill. He took that secret to the grave with him. And one trial said Wild Bill killed his brother, and the next trial found out he never had a brother, so most likely just a hired gun. But there's a lot of history that's gone left untold out there, folks. And if you want to know all about it, you're going to have to pick up a history book from one of the gift shops around the area. And if you don't believe the stories I was telling you about today, go buy the book I wrote, because it's all in there. All right, do you see Larry out there anywhere? There he is, right over there. All right, kids, thanks for coming today. I hope you enjoyed the tour. If you do something